As many as 28 million people could be evicted in the coming months.
These racist cops have got to go! These racist cops have got to go!
Meanwhile, the U.S. has the highest numbers of coronavirus cases and deaths in the world.
Can't lie, this season of the show called America has been the pits. Very stupid. I mean, the plot doesn't really make any sense. Characters' motivations are weird. It's a mess. Needs a full rewrite. But hopefully this show served you a little better. Hopefully we've kept you a little informed, a little entertained. But all good things come to an end, they tell me. This is our season finale. Don't worry though, we'll be back. Hopefully just in time to write our review for the season finale of America. Spoiler alert, cat from those Karen memes becomes president. Would that really be any worse than our current options? Welcome to Why You Should Give a Fuck, the show where we don't just have conversations about you, have them with you. Before I go any further, please do take the time. Hit some buttons below. There's a subscribe button, a like button. There's apparently a bell or something. I don't know. Just hit something. We greatly appreciate it. On with the show. I had this moment when I was at the store recently, and I had a mask on, and the employees had a mask on, and I just thought to myself, how would I explain this exact moment to myself from even just a year ago? And then I thought, how would I explain the entire 2020 year to myself from 5 years ago? And then I thought I wouldn't. I would just knock myself out and switch places back to the future style. If that weren't an option though, I think there's a lot of places I could start, but I think I would start by talking about power. Just like we did with the first episode of this very show.
When we were in the brainstorming process of developing the show, we tried to figure out what one unifying topic caused most of the issues in our political system, and the concept of power kept coming up. While 2020 has been one of the most shit show years we've ever lived through, this year ended up being a prime example of not only why power is so important to understand, but also why we shouldn't hand over too much of our power.
But that control over our lives is power. Some of the time, we're not even aware of just how much of that power we're actually giving up. And that's only part of the problem. The other, and perhaps most important part, is that after we give up that power, we tend not to check in to see what's being done with it. We just see the end results and wonder, how the fuck did we get here? So who has the juice? Who runs this shit? Who has le power? That's French for power. I know things. From the government to corporations to what passes as our media, they all have their hands in the pot.
Whether it's the whiplash effect they give us with going hard on COVID-19, and then when they're bored with that, going to protests, and then when they get bored with that, going back to COVID-19.
We had pharmaceutical companies that had to be shamed into pinky promising that they wouldn't charge a life savings for the COVID-19 vaccine.
Or even something as simple as voting and other things our beloved politicians love to mess up for us. It's an age-old question. Is it done with stupidity or foul intent?
I've always heard, that the United States is a melting pot where you take and, everybody, the races all blend together. And I guess my take on it is the melting pot I see is racism, malice, and stupidity.
We feel it. We feel all of it. In this never-ending landslide of bullshit, we seem to always be at the bottom of the hill, waiting to just accept whatever shit slides our way. Some might say the system is designed to break us down.
I've been on the chat line every day for about 2 weeks now, starting off at number 1,500, getting all the way down to maybe like 30 and get hung up on. I stayed on the chat line from 8 o'clock one morning to 8 o'clock one night just to get hung up on. And I don't feel that's fair for none of us. We work for this. We didn't ask to be in this position.
When the government fucks up programs that hurt us at exactly the time that we need them, we feel that.
or when corporations do what corporations do.
She refused to prosecute Trump's current Secretary of the Treasury, Steve Mnuchin, also known as the executive director of the Bond Villain Recruitment Program. He ran One West Bank when they foreclosed on tens of thousands of homeowners in California. They did a lot of fucked up shit. They even went as far as to foreclose on a 90-year-old woman who was 27 cents short on her mortgage payment.
But we wondered a lot about whose fault all of this is. There's all this power and a bunch of players fighting to get the top spot. From where I stand, the media seems to have the most power because they get to decide which actors get to continue with business as usual and which ones should be called out on their shit. When they don't take their job seriously, we end up as a casualty. I remember Nick Coldry speaking on this in our first episode.
You need an institution that brings all that together. And media, TV, radio, the press have become those institutions with all their faults, with all their virtues. But what that means is that the agenda of what is important, the agenda of what we think it is that we should be paying attention to at any one time, is massively influenced by the decisions made by media institutions.
Yeah, I hear you. But to have that kind of reach, you need one hell of a megaphone. And these media organizations, at their heart, corporations, follow the money. Literally in the same ep, my dude Eves backed me up on this one.
In this current world we're living in, I would say the power of the media to broadcast, to send information, and to attract attention to that information. Unfortunately, most of that power is based on economics, is based on money, on who can have the means to produce content that will attract people, or who has the means to attract attention by focusing on who's attentive to what.
But this back and forth about who's screwing us the most or who has the most power, it's missing one key player: the people. It's not power to the people, it's the people have power. And if there's one takeaway from this season, it's that we definitely do have power. A lot of it. Whether you're talking about the media, corporations, or the government, they all have one thing in common. They need us in order to work. That's power. One might say we just need a little unity.
In this season, we spent quite a bit of time telling you why things were terrible and how we got to this point in the first place. But we didn't want to make y'all lose hope and think that this condition was a permanent one. Throughout the season, we tried to highlight solutions for what we can do to deal with institutions and people in charge who abuse their power. One major conclusion we came to was that these politicians, corporations, and systems really do bet on us being stupid. And while yes, we can act a fool sometimes, like when we take our right to vote for granted or turn a blind eye when oversight hearings come on, we can show these institutions that we know exactly what game they're trying to play.
That's only one example, but I think what that tells me is that it's us, the consumers, that show companies that we don't really value the workers. Corporations are all too often okay with abusing labor rights because they know ultimately that the people buying their products and using their services won't really care that they do. I'd be a fucking hypocrite if I said I'm not addicted to the same products and services myself. I have 5 Amazon packages on the way to my place right now. I'm not saying let's just all at the same time collectively stop buying these products and using these services. What we can do is apply pressure to the places that we spend our money by being highly vocal, and at times that makes sense to us as groups or individuals refusing to spend money until they take labor rights seriously. These institutions should hold themselves accountable, but ultimately it's us, the people, who need to hold them accountable. So what comes next? Who the hell knows? We've got the apocalypse, the election coming up, COVID going through its terrible teen years, mass protests because of blatant injustices, and an economy that looks like the after picture of a rage room. Things have to change in a real way, and not, in a corporate hashtag way, but genuine change. Or as one viewer reminded us of an MLK quote, we must recognize that we can't solve our problems now until there is a radical redistribution of economic and political power.
But we do hope that you continue to give a fuck about all these issues we went through this season. One of our goals when starting this show was to really ask thoughtful questions that go beyond political ideology, to get to the root of why we should care about these sorts of topics. We shouldn't wait for our community circles and thought leaders to predetermine what party and school of thought we should fall into, but rather look for ourselves through a critical and fair lens to see how political systems have been designed to screw over regular people, marginalized people, and the working class. Who knows exactly what we'll talk about next? We might dabble in a little bit of this, a little bit of that. We might get a little bit more bold.
But one thing's for damn sure about the show. If we're going to get anywhere, we're not going to spend all of our time obsessing over celebrities. Now, I'm not talking about celebrities like Idris Elba, although he is one smooth-ass dude. I mean the celebrity of politicians, or even political commentators, because just simply talking about the people that politics affects is clearly not doing enough. As we see with the protests across the country, people for damn sure can speak for themselves. The missing link is a platform, and that's what we want this show to be, a platform for the people. Even if it is just this little rinky-dink show called Why You Should Give a Fuck. These are tense times, so we appreciate you giving a fuck for season 1. All right, admittedly, that last sentence came out kind of weird. But you get what I mean. Season 2 will be here before you know it. But in the meantime, take care of yourselves. See you soon.